So that's my basic script. I know it would be a rather controversial video, but I personally think it would be insightful. It would really break out the mold of the kind of videos I usually do, especially considering the format. I mean, I don't normally do TV shows, and overall, I think it would just make for a funny video. What do you think? Well, your video definitely does have potential. It is very insightful, and it does have some genuinely funny moments. And overall, I think it does have the potential to be a pretty great video. Thanks. However, I do suggest you make a couple of small adjustments before filming it. Like what? Well, it's kind of hard to describe it in words, but essentially try to make it about 20% cooler. 20% cooler. Right, note taken. Hey McFly! I thought I told you never to come in here. What the hell are you doing here? You're taking a leak. If this is your only example of your other clones, then I don't trust them. No, here's an exception. Come on, let's go. Nonsense, we haven't finished our drink. What are you doing here, mate? Talking to your precious clones? Be careful not to hang out with too many of them, or you may lose track of the real Corey. Well, you're a clone too, Mr. Hypocrite. Excuse me, clone. I have had a rather emotional day, so whatever your beef with Corey is, and I'm sure it's well-founded, I'd appreciate it enormously if you leave us in peace until I finish this lovely hot chocolate. You should get out the way, clone. You're gonna get hurt and all. He ain't joking. You should go. Yeah, do as your mate says, you wuss. And get a change in clothes. You look as ridiculous as a grown man in an orange anthropomorphic catsuit. Manners maketh man. Do you know what that means? Then let me teach you a lesson. Are we gonna stand around here all day? Or are we gonna fight? Kingsman: The Secret Service is a British spy action film that was released in 2015 and stars Matthew Vaughn and stars Colin Firth and Taaron Egerton. I really hope I said those names right. The film follows a young man named Eggsy. He is a young man with potential, however his potential has not been met because there's a lot of things about his life that's caused him to kind of decline as a person. Until he's introduced to Harry, who is a member of this organisation known as the Kingsman, a secret organisation of British spies that dress up like gentlemen. So Eggsy is taken into this secret service by Harry, and Harry teaches him how to be a competent spy, while also learning how to be a gentleman. Now, I haven't spoken about Kingsman: The Secret Service very much on this channel. I did mention this movie once very briefly in a previous video, but again, it was only very briefly. But, since Kingsman: The Golden Circle is just about to hit cinemas, I thought now was the perfect time to give my thoughts on the first film, because I am definitely going to be seeing Kingsman: The Golden Circle in cinemas. So I thought, why not review the first movie in anticipation for The Golden Circle? The first thing I can say about this movie is the fact that it is relentlessly entertaining. It is a ton of fun to watch. This movie is thoroughly ridiculous, and it does not take itself seriously at all. But I have no problem with that. This is a very upbeat movie, and it's incredibly over the top, which makes it insanely fun to watch. And this movie does not hold back. It is not afraid to go over the top with violence. This movie also has a great sense of humour. There's a lot of really funny moments sprinkled throughout the entire film. In preparation for this review, I watched the movie again just the other night, and I was really quite surprised with how often they broke the fourth wall in this movie, or at the very least leaned against it, making tons of jokes and references about previous James Bond films and what would usually happen in other spy movies. And it's a combination of that and the combination of this organization that's really good at taking people down while also doing it in a very posh, gentleman-like way. The movie has a very unique style. It just really stands out and has a really lively personality, and this given personality is really what makes the film incredibly memorable. I really love it when an action movie is able to stand out from the crowd and remain memorable, because it's able to step out from the crowd and being unique by having its own style. Because a lot of other action films can be rather formulaic and be rather generic, even if the film overall is good. But unlike other movies like Mission Impossible 2, this movie doesn't go overboard with style, so you can still take it seriously. And a lot of the style from the film really comes down to the Kingsmen themselves. These people are the definition of a gentleman. But they're also one of those people where if you get on their naughty list, you're basically screwed. Which leads to the action. The action is brutal, but it's incredibly fun. That scene in the bar is one of my favorite scenes in the movie, and I personally think it's going to become iconic within the next few decades. Everything about that scene is perfect. And that scene in the church, just the church scene. Wow. Also, this movie has an amazing soundtrack. I absolutely love the music in this film. I also really like Eggsy as a character. I find him very likable, even though he is kind of a jerk at the beginning of the film. But at the same time, you can easily see why when you see his stepfather, who makes Bernard Dursley look like absolutely nothing. I also loved Harry as a character. I found him incredibly likable, very funny, and overall, one of my favorite characters in the film. And I really liked the relationship between these two. The relationship between Eggsy and Harry kind of felt like there was a father-son relationship there. And hearing some of the stuff that Harry tells Eggsy, you can easily see why there is kind of that father-son relationship. And the film also stars Samuel L. Jackson as a villain with a sidekick that has razor blades for feet. Now that is awesome! I really liked Samuel L. Jackson's character for quite a few reasons. For starters, I really liked how he had a really understandable motivation, and in a lot of ways you could see that he felt like he was the protagonist in a lot of ways, and he felt like he was actually genuinely doing good to the world. Like, yeah, his plan was going to kill millions of people, but you can kind of see why he was doing it, because he was trying to deal with genuinely big problems like global warming. So you could see that he was convinced that he was doing the right thing. And so this was a very compelling motivation. I also found the fact that he was very squeamish about blood despite being the villain. I just found that to be a really funny quirk, also very different and original, and I love how they fully commit to it. Like, even when he personally kills a very major character in the film, he actually has to look away because he can't stand the sight of blood. I just thought that was funny. Although I am not a fan of the choice Samuel L. Jackson made to give this character a lisp. I honestly found it rather annoying. While we're on the subject of flaws, I want to bring up another little issue of the film that bothered me, and this one's a bit more major than simply a lisp. Now, I am about to go into minor spoiler territory here, but this movie's 2 years old. But my issue is something that happens sort of towards the end of the second act / the beginning of the third act. And that's the fact that Eggsy failed the initiation. He was asked to shoot the dog with a blank gun, but not knowing it was a blank, he refused to shoot the dog, which causes him to fail the initiation. So that essentially means that he shouldn't have been allowed to join the Kingsmen. And yet, somehow the movie unfolds, and yet he's joining the Kingsmen, he's given gadgets and a suit, and he seriously participates in the climax of the film. To the point where it's pretty much confirmed that he's joined the Kingsmen. So the thing that really confused me is that he failed the initiation, and yet he was still able to join the Kingsmen. He was able to join the Kingsmen scot-free without even passing the initiation. And I would have liked at least one line of dialogue explaining why he was able to get in so easily despite failing. But overall, I absolutely love Kingsman: The Secret Service. I think it's an incredibly fun and an insanely entertaining action film, and I seriously recommend it to anyone who hasn't seen it. I love this movie, and I cannot wait to see the sequel in a few days. I'm going to give Kingsman: The Secret Service an A. Well, thank you all for watching. Stay tuned till my next video, whatever it may be, but until then, yippee-ki-yay, movie lovers!